Hello and welcome to Preemie Chats, a place for parents and healthcare professionals to gather, share stories, and learn from each other. My name is Jenna Morton. I'm one of 3 co-hosts who present this series on behalf of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation. I'm a career broadcast journalist and mom to 3 NICU grads, including preemie twins who were born at 32 weeks and are turning 12 next week. I live and work in Mi'kma'ki outside of Moncton, New Brunswick. Preemie Chats is the creation of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation, also known as CPBF. The foundation is a parent-led charity that helps families during and after their NICU time through education, support, and advocacy. You can see our website there on your screen, canadianpreemies.org. I hope that you will take some time later to visit and to find all the resources that are on the site. You'll find a recording of this Preemie Chat when it's finished, as well as all of our previous Preemie Chats, our podcast, all kinds of resources for parents, for healthcare providers, a parent handbook on respiratory illnesses, which of course are top of mind this time of year. Most importantly, though, you will find a community of parents and professionals who are working together to help our children thrive. Of course, this is a parent-led foundation, and we are very, very grateful for everyone who joins us for these sessions. We would love to know where you're joining us from. You can leave us a comment, let us know where you're watching from and what brings you to us today, whether you are a preemie parent, a grown preemie, a healthcare provider. Everyone is welcome, and we'd love to know who's watching and who's joining us today. And throughout our discussion today as well, if you have questions or comments or thoughts to share, please do so in the comments and have a chat there. We will have an opportunity at the end of the presentation to answer questions if you leave them there. And I know that today's topic is going to bring up a lot of emotions and a lot of questions for a lot of people, and it's going to be just a fantastic discussion. Today, we are focusing on Couplet Care. That is the work being done at the IWK in Halifax to ensure early reunification and zero separation for parents and babies. I remember what it was like to have our babies just whisked away right after birth and then kept away for a very long time. And, of course, there are medical reasons that happened, but even knowing that there's an emotional attachment and a lot of trauma that comes for a lot of people with that happening, and to think that we might be able to reduce and even remove that separation and that trauma for families is at the core of what we're doing here with these Preemie Chats and the work of the organization. So the IWK's Couplet Care Quality Improvement Initiative is doing just that. They are transforming the NICU experience by keeping parents and babies together in the same hospital room. To tell us more about how it's being done and what it's doing for the families and for the healthcare providers involved, I'm thrilled to welcome Gail MacRae Sly to Preemie Chats. She's a clinical nurse specialist at the IWK with more than 20 years' experience in the field and is the neonatal lead in implementing the Couplet Care program. Welcome to Preemie Chats, Gail.
Hi, Jenna. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on to give us a presentation today and have a discussion about what's happening, because I know just the idea of it fills me with so much interest and so much hope.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. And, I've been in neonatal care for 20 years, and doing this work has certainly been the highlight of my career, I can say.
Well, like I say, as a parent, I'm thrilled that there are people like you, pushing for parents and babies to be able to spend more time together. So right now I'm going to turn the screen over to you. You've got a presentation prepared for us. And again, I'll just remind everyone to please let us know in the comments where you're watching from, your thoughts and your questions as Gail goes through her presentation, and we will have an opportunity to come back at the end and talk about that.
Okay, thank you again, Jenna. So my name, like Jenna said, is Gail MacRae Sly. I am the clinical nurse specialist at the IWK Health in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Before I get started, I just want to make a few acknowledgements. So I am coming to you from Halifax, Nova Scotia, where I'm located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kma'ki people. Our municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaty signed in this very territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. I also want to acknowledge that although I am the one who gets to speak today, Couplet Care would not have come to fruition without collaboration between units in our entire program. So Couplet Care is very much a collaboration between the NICU, the Family Newborn Care Unit or postpartum unit, and the birth unit. The prenatal unit plays a role as well, as well as other areas in the hospital. I always like to give a notable mention to admitting and pharmacy, as Couplet Care has had the biggest impact on those areas. Also, we would never have gotten this far with Couplet Care if we didn't have the belief and support of our leadership team. So I always like to take a moment and recognize them as well. So I'm going to talk about what Couplet Care is, why we do it, how we got where we are now today, the design that we used. We also have eligibility criteria for Couplet Care. We'll talk about that and how it's evolved over the past couple of years. We'll look at the outcomes that we measured, how we've expanded, and some patient feedback. So what is Couplet Care? Historically, when a baby was admitted to the NICU, there was an inevitable separation between the birth parent and mom and the baby. And Couplet Care is designed to mitigate that separation. So our current model allows for a birth parent to receive postpartum care in the NICU where their baby is actually admitted. So they both get the care that they need in the same room, in the same neonatal intensive care unit. So we bring the care to the postpartum patient in the NICU. We mobilize our human resources. That's sort of our motto. And so the reason we do it is because we want to mitigate the effects of trauma on separation between baby and parent. We know that trauma has implications for neural development for infants in the NICU, and so we really want to prevent that from happening. We want to facilitate attachment and a sense of psychological safety for the infant, having never been separated from their parent, or at the very least, early reunification. We practice family integrated care in the NICU, and Couplet Care aligns with the values of FICARE. Having parental presence through Couplet Care allows for parental-led pain interventions. It optimizes neurodevelopmental outcomes and improves access to skin-to-skin care, which in and of itself offers many benefits to babies. So how did we get here? It was a long process. We began planning in late 2021, early 2022, and we were highly motivated. So that was really our driving force the whole time, was to keep infants together with their parents. And we kept that at the forefront when things got hard. We remembered our why. So our goal was to implement Couplet Care, ensuring togetherness between the parent who required medical clinical care and the infant in one space. We wanted to do that while maintaining the high quality care that we were providing for the infant in the NICU, and equally as high quality care for the postpartum patient in this new environment. They would have previously received high quality care up in their postpartum unit, and now with relocating them, we certainly did not want to lose sight of what was needed to care for them in a different type of environment. So that was top of mind for us. Again, I can't stress enough that we really wanted to mitigate the risk of separation and trauma for infants and their parents. We wanted to do this in a really evidence-based way to provide care to both, to the dyad as an entirety. We wanted to lean into our partnership with Family Newborn Care Unit and the birth unit and NICU, and we've since expanded to include the prenatal unit in Couplet Care as well. We really wanted to lean into our parents and our parent partners and get their feedback, work with families who were here, families who had been here in the past, and healthcare providers and administration to ensure that we were successful in this project and this work. And we wanted to share education and knowledge with people to, have those early adopters on board. So how did we do it? We developed a very large multidisciplinary working group. So we did that because we didn't want to leave any stone unturned. We believed so fiercely in Couplet Care that we wanted to ensure that there would be no gaps unrecognized and no barriers removed before we went live. And so anybody who could possibly have been impacted by Couplet Care rolling out in our health center was invited to the table to talk about Couplet Care, what it meant, what it might mean for their department. People slowly dropped off as they felt they did or didn't have a role in Couplet Care. But yeah, we certainly started big and then whittled down. We simulated Couplet Care in rooms to get an idea, a sense of space, and how it would feel to those who would be providing direct care in the rooms. So our NICU staff and our postpartum staff. We did a video sharing a simulation of how it would look. We surveyed families and nurses to evaluate the postpartum experience before and after Couplet Care. And then once we did all of that work, we developed eligibility criteria for both the postpartum parent and the infant. So ultimately, who would be eligible to participate in Couplet Care? I will say we started really slowly with that, and we've since built. And then we created a description for a postpartum liaison nurse. So a postpartum nurse who comes down to the NICU to provide care to the postpartum patients here who are here with their infant. So this was a new role that was developed in the postpartum floor, and we got to contribute to that role description. So we took a quality improvement design to this so that we could continue to measure our progress on an ongoing basis to see if we're making a difference in the experiences of infants and their parents who engage in Couplet Care. Again, can't stress enough that we did use a collaboration model between NICU, Family Newborn Care Unit, and Birth Unit. Developed the postpartum liaison nurse role, and then we created a space that would be shared between NICU and postpartum mostly. The birth unit has a role initially where transfer of care occurs from birth unit to NICU, and then the postpartum staff takes over. We designed eligibility for Couplet Care, like I said, and that was our first PDSA cycle. And I'm going to show you what that eligibility looked like at first. And then we created a process document. It was really a step-by-step guide for anybody who is going to be offering Couplet Care to a family. It's really a resource document so that people always felt like they had a place to go. If they weren't sure how to start a conversation or if somebody was eligible, what to say. We even include a script in that document, and it still lives in each unit who's involved in Couplet Care. We created an emergency preparedness plan because in our NICU, we are not equipped fully to care for the adult patients. So we had to ensure that we had a plan in case something adverse happened. We had to create admission codes with our admitting department. And then we ensured that all services that were required to care for the postpartum patient would then be available in the NICU. So just even simple things, lab, DI, food services, ensuring that they were at our table and that those services were in place for them to receive care in our unit. And initially, because of the setup of the NICU, when we first rolled out, we had 3 rooms out of our entire unit that were able to accommodate Couplet Care. And those were 2 twin rooms and a triplet room. And the reason we started with those rooms is because they fit a hospital grade bed. And so anybody admitted to Couplet Care got a hospital grade bed in the NICU. So we rolled out in June of 2022. And then there was a wave of COVID. There was a pandemic wave. And so we were paused again until October. But initially, we did try to roll out in June. And our initial eligibility for Couplet Care for the infant, we actually modeled after our Together practice. So we have a Together practice at the IWK where infants who are eligible, require NICU admission, can stay in the birth unit in skin-to-skin care with their parent for up to 2 hours if they met certain eligibility criteria. And so to build on that success, and ideally to get to a place of zero separation, you do the Together practice and then you transition to NICU together. We thought it would be a really good place to start with Couplet Care. So initially, for the infant, they had to first require a NICU admission, be greater or equal to 32 weeks, have a 5-minute Apgar score of greater than 7, have a stable respiratory status, but it could include CPAP. They could have IV therapy. We were limited to singletons and then any end-of-life care. For the postpartum parent, they were eligible as long as they did not have a general anesthetic. They were clinically stable, so no known PPH or hypertension crisis, no comorbidities that required further stabilization. Initially, we had said no bariatric patients, and then non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. That was more of a medication storage, Pyxis access issue. And then, of course, if they agree to a postpartum admission, then they were welcome to do so. So this is our initial criteria. These are pictures of our process documents. So I'm a neonatal nurse. Attention to detail is hugely important. These documents were a step-by-step guide, everything you had to do to facilitate Couplet Care, what to say, who to notify, what your admitting codes are. Here's the phone numbers. This is what you do. Like I said, we included a script. We included pictures of what the room looked like if the parents were curious before they consented. Again, anything that we could do to make it easier, more accessible, and to remove any barriers, we tried to put it in place. That's the second page of the document. There's actually an entire binder. And these are some pictures of some of our initial couplets. So on my far left is a picture of a room. So you can see the incubator at the front of the room, the hospital grade bed at the back of the room. So parent and baby both receive care in this space. The next picture over is a family who really wanted zero separation. It was really important to them. And we came together as a team to ensure that that happened. And we facilitated an admission to a Couplet Care room. They transferred over from birth unit in skin-to-skin care on dad's chest. He got into the bed and actual procedures were done in skin-to-skin care. You can see here that there's lines being inserted. Later, an echo is done. The third picture in was one of our first couplets, actually, and this mom had some mobility concerns, and Couplet Care was hugely valuable to her because it increased her access to her baby. And then the last picture is just a beautiful picture of one of the couplets we cared for in the unit very early on. So, of course, we wanted to see, do we make a difference after facilitating Couplet Care? So we measured outcomes pre and post Couplet Care implementation. And so looking at this bar graph, the blue bars are pre-Couplet Care. So we surveyed families to find out what is your postpartum experience like before Couplet Care. And then we did the same thing after Couplet Care. So obviously not the same family, so it's not completely apples to apples, but based on this graph, it looks like we made a difference, and we interpreted this as making a difference. We have made improvements in comfort, access to their nurse, their physician, or midwife, their baby. We improved satisfaction with care and privacy and pain control. We improved bonding time, hours of skin to skin per day, and exclusive breastfeeding rates. The only one we didn't seem to make a difference in, which is actually quite interesting, is integration into care. So I don't have an answer to explain that because we expected the opposite. But here we are. It looks like there's a little bit of a decrease of a sense of integration into care with Couplet Care. So we weren't done. We knew that we wanted to expand Couplet Care, and so we gave it some time. Between June 2022 and April 2024, only 23 couplets were admitted into the NICU, which, is 23 more than we would have had we never implemented it. So I was happy with that. I thought, 23 couplets had care together. That's great. And now let's do more. And so, of course, we went back to our collaboration table with all of the with the program, our family newborn care unit colleagues and birth unit colleagues, and we really looked at our eligibility criteria critically, and we wondered how can we take away some of the barriers. So I already talked to you about having 3 rooms available. That was a barrier in and of itself. So we all came back together and talked about, so what do we do next to prepare for an expansion? So in April of 2024, we expanded our eligibility for couplet care for those who have had vaginal births. So anybody with a vaginal birth whom the infant met the criteria to be admitted into couplet care, those patients could actually be admitted to our pull-out beds in the back of the room. So there is a couch at the back of the room that turns into a bed. And so if a patient consented and they had a baby vaginally, they could actually be admitted to the NICU in couplet care with their baby on this pull-out bed. So the postpartum patient admission criteria is what we looked at first. And so we took out the limitation of the bariatric patient and we added in the pull-out bed. So in order to get admitted to that bed, there had to have been a vaginal birth. They were required to be able to ambulate. Tears were fine. 3rd and 4th degree tears were fine as long as they could ambulate. Well-controlled pain and consent. They would have to want to be admitted to the pull-out bed. And so, like I said, in the documents that we share with the birth unit and that we keep in our binder, we did provide a script describing the pull-out bed and pictures in case families wanted to see that before they decided if they were going to do it. So this is a picture of the space. So you can see we have a couch by day and a bed by night. And also each room has an art wall. And so you can see in the middle there, the art wall is pushed up to the right. And this provides us with access to gases and suction for the postpartum patient above their sleep space. So this is what it looks like when patients are admitted to our pull-out bed in the NICU. The postpartum care remains the same for the patients. They just receive it on the pull-out bed. Ergonomics were top of mind for us for the nurses who would be performing assessments. So we did invest in many stools that were at the same level as the pull-out bed for nurses to sit on to provide their care. And we offered a central location for postpartum supplies in both NICU South and NICU North. That's how we divide up our unit. Our first round, we thought of the special considerations as well, and then enhanced them for our second PDSA cycle. So thinking of code blue, any emergencies that were in our unit, we don't have code blue leavers for adults. So we do have a process in place to call an emergency number if there is an adverse event with an adult. And that's very well communicated to the teams within our program. We do keep resuscitation equipment in the bottom drawer of our postpartum supplies in case we were to require it for the adult. And previously, when I mentioned we have 3 rooms that can accommodate a hospital grade bed, we've kept those rooms as well. And we give those, we have priority for those to our post-cesarean patients. So a vaginal birth would not typically be admitted to that room. We preserve them for people who have had a cesarean. So great news. After the expansion between April 1st, 2024 and December 31st, 2024, 67 couplets were admitted into couplet care. So that's like threefold what we had accomplished in 2 years. We did in about 8 months. So huge improvements in access to couplet care just by utilizing the pull-out bed. So some patient feedback that we've received is one family said, beautiful, just beautiful to be able to be in the NICU and feel so close to my baby. A nurse said the patient was glowing, and both she and her partner expressed how lucky they were to be able to do this and felt all of their nurses were fantastic. This is so amazing. I couldn't imagine how stressful it would have been to be separated from her. We're so grateful for the nurses. They've been awesome. So nice to be able to be right here with her. I feel so lucky that I get to be here with him. Amazing. It's amazing. This is so beneficial to us and the baby. I'm so grateful to be a part of it. So that's very rewarding, very meaningful feedback from the family. Again, we're not done. So in January 2025, we've launched our third PDSA cycle for a quality improvement project that is Couplet Care. And we have expanded the eligibility criteria for infants. So we did take away the limitations of gestation and respiratory support and APGARs. So now any infant who requires a NICU admission is eligible for Couplet Care. We still, of course, include end-of-life care in there. And previously, we had noted singletons as only being eligible. Now we have expanded to twins. There's still a bit of a complicated process, but we are making progress. So twins born vaginally who both require admission, the birth parent can be admitted to the couch. And then twins born by cesarean who both require admission, we have one room that could accommodate that. And that's just because it's a triplet room. And so you can fit 2 incubators and 1 hospital bed in that room. We still struggle with the well infant and the unwell infant requiring a NICU admission. We just don't have the capacity right now to have somebody mobilized to come down to the NICU to care for the well infant. And no changes to the postpartum parent criteria at that time. So we have not yet evaluated this. It's only been a month. But anecdotally, I've noticed that we've had a lot more Couplet Care admissions. I do get the data sent to me quarterly to see how many admissions we are getting. So I'm excited to see what the next quarter will bring. So like anything, any change that's implemented, there are challenges and limitations. The pandemic definitely delayed us at first in 2022. The evaluation process has been trickier than we would have expected. So initially we were getting lots of surveys and evaluations filled out by families. That's certainly died down. So it's hard to really know beyond qualitative information that they share with us exactly what we're making a difference with now. Medication access has been a bit of a limitation as well, just due to Pyxis and space and logistics, and then appropriateness of carrying meds from one floor to another. Continued engagement and commitment, that's ongoing. We just have to keep pushing and keep reminding people that we're doing this and keep offering it to families. Human resources were stretched like every other health center in the country. And so sometimes it can be hard to mobilize human resources to provide care in different care areas. And then, of course, knowledge translation to all services. So we did do our absolute best to include everybody in this process. But occasionally, with turnover and we just have to go back and make sure people are aware that that Couplet Care is something that may impact their department. So we're not done yet. We still are planning ahead and planning for PDSA cycle number 4. So we want to improve the together practice that occurs in the birth unit and contribute to zero separation. We want to reassess the postpartum criteria, and we want to support the unwell and well twins to be together in Couplet Care. We want to expand mobilization of care. There is another unit in our program that sometimes provides care to postpartum patients, and they are very willing to participate in Couplet Care. We just haven't actually supported them to do so yet. So that's definitely on our mind. So we want to get that done. We'd love to achieve zero separation in 2 years. And we are just starting to do some research to try and get some of this work published. So big goals. And that's it for me, Jenna.
Oh my goodness. There's so much. It's so amazing. That goal. Oh my goodness. That's a big goal, but your numbers make it seem very attainable at the same time.
It was so exciting to see that we tripled the number of admissions in 8 months that we had in 2 years. That was huge. And so I can't wait to see what the new data shows once I get it for the next quarter, having basically eliminated criteria for the infant, because it was quite limiting to to have 32 weeks and, CPAP. And yeah, so I'm excited to see what's to come. I would love to achieve zero separation within 2 years. That would be phenomenal. It's a huge goal.
Well, and I think it's so important to remind people, though, you do have to go in those little steps to make sure that everyone is familiar and comfortable with the new process, but it doesn't necessarily take a long time to be comfortable enough to move to the next stage. I think that's what really stood out to me, was how quickly you are progressing from one stage to the next with a project.
Well, the first stage was long. And so people were actually asking us, like, can we do more? Like, can we offer it to more people? And so there was a couple of different things that caused delay, but eventually 2 years in, we got there. And now I feel like we're moving quite quickly. So yeah, it's exciting. There's more exciting things to come with it for sure.
We've had, lots of people watching, and I think a lot of people are having that same, like, does my hospital have this? When will my hospital have this? Can you talk a little bit about how common or uncommon couplet care still is, specifically in Canada, and where that might go in the next few years?
So unless it's published, I probably don't know about it yet. So when we went to the literature, we did a lit review before we launched Couplet Care, and we could only find a couple of publications about Couplet Care, and they were from the West Coast. And so we actually modeled a bit after what we found in the literature from BC Women's. They did a phenomenal job, and so we used their publication to help guide us. And then we ended up doing Couplet Care, and we have been to a number of conferences where we presented it in both presentation and poster format. We've presented it in multiple different forms at this point, and I've noticed that it's becoming more popular. And now if you go to the literature, there's actually quite a bit published about Couplet Care, people getting started or people having already established it. So I'm excited to do our own research too, so we can get our work published and get it out there. We didn't publish the quality improvement piece, but we are going to work towards doing a qualitative study and then a quantitative study as well. So that's one of our goals. And then we can get ourselves out there too, because we've been doing this work since 2022, and it's important. It's important for other units so that they can read what we've done and learn from us, like we learned from BC Women's. But in Ontario, there is a few places either doing it or starting to do it as well. And then the most recent conference that I presented at, even within the Maritimes, people are moving toward it as well.
We have a kind of a question here from Lily, wondering whether you know of any hospitals where couplet care happens when baby and parent have had to transfer between hospitals, which is common in a lot of places.
I know that must be so difficult to not be in the same building. I have not heard of any, but there might be somebody online who can speak to that, but I haven't heard of that in other organizations.
And just a quick follow-up there from Lily on that. She's wondering about how this will move between borders, and how people that might be looking to implement this in other countries can reach out for more.
I'd love to collaborate with people in other countries. I'm very open to people contacting us from within Canada, from other countries. It's important that infants and parents stay together everywhere, not just in Halifax, but everywhere. It's important for optimizing their health and their outcomes for both the parent and the baby. And so if we can help with that, absolutely, I would be very willing to collaborate. My contact information is at the end of that slide of the presentation, and I'd be happy to hear from people. I do hear from people from within Canada, from conferences I've been to, that will reach out occasionally with questions.
One of the questions I had when you were going through your presentation, one of the things that jumped out to me was you mentioned in the vast group of people that you talked to and you brought together for this, that you have a partnership with prenatal. And I know from my personal experience, that was one of the best parts of knowing that we were on track to have premature babies, was having the chance to go into the NICU ahead of time, having, some of those barriers a little bit lowered, because we knew what was going to happen. And so I'm wondering if you could talk just a little bit more about how you're able to draw in the prenatal piece to this.
So our prenatal center have all been very engaged in the education around Couplet Care to know how it's facilitated and how that looks. I get a lot of consults for prenatal patients to see them when it is known that their baby is going to be admitted to the NICU. And then there's a neonatal consult as well. So our neonatologist would see them as well. And our neonatologists always bring up Couplet Care. When I read their consults, they're always bringing it up and talking to the family about it as an option. So families then meet me after, and I do my consult, answer their questions, concerns, provide support. And I typically would give them a tour of the unit and would include Couplet Care in that. And so I'm always, I always review the eligibility criteria with them, just so that I don't set them up to feel like they're absolutely going to get it. And I review the process of how that gets offered and at what point and what that would look like. I also review the together practice. I do find that when you provide families with the information, they can then ask for it, which is really powerful. Because when a family asks for it, if we're in the throes of providing clinical care and it just doesn't get facilitated on our end and they're asking for it, of course, yes, we're going to do that. Come and we'll admit you both to Couplet Care. So families have been really engaged right from prenatal, knowing that this is what they want. We also, as a clinical nurse specialist group, there's 4 of us who work on Couplet Care, and we do a lot of complex care planning. And so when we do that, we'll note in the care plan that gets scanned to their health record that they want the together practice and Couplet Care. So that way, every unit that they go to, wherever at whatever point they enter care in our organization, that can be pulled and that people know right away that they want access to Couplet Care. So we can pre-plan for it.
From a parent's perspective, I think I'm wondering, at what point does Couplet Care end, in terms of, I'm thinking for, like, in my example, if we had been eligible, which maybe at this point we would be, one of our boys stayed in the NICU for 35 days. I had a cesarean. I didn't need to be there that long. At what point, does Couplet Care stop if the infant needs continued care, but the parent doesn't?
That's a great question. So we have single room care at the IWK. And so our rooms were designed for families to live there. The entire space is a family space. The front of the room holds the incubator and the milk fridge and the whiteboard and the computer and monitor. The back of the room holds the pull-out bed. There's sliding doors for privacy. There's a bathroom. There's storage space. So we design the rooms for people to move in. So once the postpartum patient or the mom is discharged from postpartum care, they typically just stay in the room. So the only difference is that they are no longer a patient. They no longer get nursing care, but they stay in the room. If it is a cesarean patient, we do move them out into another room because we would just want to make space for the next patient who's had a cesarean and wants to access Couplet Care.
Yeah, that's incredible to think that we can provide that atmosphere for families, and how different that is from the approach that I think most people have had up until now when it comes to this.
We want parents to be parents in the NICU and to be a family. That's a huge priority for us.
Yeah. I loved even when you showed the picture of the art wall, and those small things can mean so much to just make the space not feel as clinical while still having all the clinical things that it needs.
Yeah, our unit was 100% donor funded, and my current manager, Tanya Miles, led the redevelopment, and she thought of every single detail of how to make this NICU a home, and that was one component of many that she thought of. Yeah, even the numbers on the doors outside the room are designed to look like house numbers so that it doesn't look so clinical.
Those little things that mean so much, and it's so important to share those small details in ways like this, because then that's something that's so easy for another unit to be able to implement
Yeah.
and pick up. And, maybe you can't do the entire couplet care, but those little touches that can really make a difference in trying to, like you say,
Yeah.
make this feel like home.
Yeah. And my advice would be, if you don't have the same type of unit that we have, what can you do within the unit you do have? Because we've had single room care now for about 7 years or so. But even prior to that, we had cots beside the incubators, and we had curtains pulled around, and we had a communal space for food prep and showering and locker storage and stuff. And, anything that we could do within an open bay unit that would still feel welcoming and supportive of families being present, we adopted that model so that when we went into single room care, the only thing new to the culture was the walls. So that would be my advice is, maybe you don't have the same style unit that you feel you could facilitate couplet care in the same way, but there might be other things that you can do to facilitate it in some way.
Love that. I'm wondering, you had the slide there at the end sharing some of the feedback that parents have shared who've had this experience now, but I'm wondering what kind of conversations and feedback you've had from the healthcare providers that have been involved.
Yeah. So we did do a pre and post survey with postpartum nurses in particular, and their experience was really positive and very validating and rewarding for them because they have a huge role in this. It's the postpartum nurses and postpartum physicians and midwives that are mobilizing. They are coming down here 2 floors down to provide care to their patient population. And that's not easy. It's really important, but it's not easy, but they do it. They do it every day. And when we surveyed them pre and post, the response was really positive, which is really beautiful. In the NICU, and on family newborn care unit, the way we make changes is from the feedback from the staff providing care. They're the ones living it. They're the ones doing it every day. And so they always have tips and tricks and questions and wondering, can we do this different? It was really the neonatal nurses who pushed for the twins to be eligible. And we made it happen. So I feel like overall the feedback has been very positive. In our hospital, we really support families being together. We believe it. We've practiced according to the evidence. And so couplet care was a very natural progression for us. Of course, you have your early adopters and your late adopters, but really, as far as change goes, I can't say it's been extremely difficult one because people really believed in it.
It's fantastic. That seems like the perfect hopeful spot to end our conversation for now, to encourage everyone who's listening and who touches the healthcare system to bring this up to people in power and say this is how impactful and in some ways how easy this can be.
Yeah. And the leadership team was tremendously important because our leaders, those that we reported to, believed in it and valued it. So that's made it that much easier.
Well, thank you. I thank you to everyone at the IWK because I happen to fall within the realm of people who might make use of that facility, and just to all the parents who are listening to this that are now thinking, wow, if someone else I know ends up in the same situation I was in, maybe they're going to have a very different experience because of work that you're doing with your team. So thank you for that. And thank you for joining us today, Gail.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you everyone who's been watching and listening to us today. There's quite a crowd of you here online. Please remember, you can still come and let us know in the comments where you were watching from, what you thought of the presentation. And if you think there's someone that should watch this as well, please, hit the share button, let them know that it's going to be on our YouTube channel, on our website, that all of our previous Preemie chats are there as well. You can find that at canadianpreemies.org or look us up on YouTube if you're looking for the video, an easy way to share that. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your stories and your time with us. I just want to remind you that Canadian Premature Babies Foundation is a charitable organization. It's thanks to our sponsors and donations from people like you that help us keep going. If you're able to, you can find a donate button on our website. And if you're not able to, you are able to share and spread the word. Every little bit helps in making us able to continue this work to empower preemie families every step along their journey. Again, Preemie Chats is here every Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. I hope that you will tune in. And until then, take care.